Hey, and welcome back to another video from my Vintage Tech Showcase playlist, the playlist of videos where I showcase older electronic devices in a form of retro style review. And what we have here today is the 2011 Nokia Asha 300. And as you can see, the Asha 300 is a combo type phone with a touch and type configuration, which Nokia was known for, and it runs Series 40, more specifically Asha Series 40. This phone was very popular in Asia and Eastern Europe, and here today we'll be going over all the details regarding this phone in this retro style review. So this is the Nokia Asha 300 here in 2022. So as always, before jumping right in, don't forget to smash that like button down below as it helps this video get on YouTube's algorithm. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and ring that bell notification button so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Also, if you have any comments or questions, just leave them down below in the comments section. We can start a discussion or I can answer your questions. My social media is also linked down in the description below, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. And now let us jump right into this video. So of course, let us now start off with a bit of history, and this thing was announced in October of 2011 and released in November of 2011, holding a price tag of 70 euros. Like I said earlier, it was very popular in Asia and in Eastern Europe as well. It was mainly manufactured in India, including this one. As you can see, it is manufactured in India, in Nokia's India facility, and it is a touch and type configuration, as you can see here, kind of like the Nokia X302, which I covered in a few videos ago, well, a few months ago. Over here you can see that video, but that phone is a way more premium phone than this. It has a metal back and all of that stuff. This thing is entirely built of plastic, but just like all the Asha phones, it also came in a bunch of colors. It was available in graphite, which is this color, and also nightshade, gold, white silver, which was white with silver accents, and pink and red as well. So it's very well received for its combo configuration, and it runs Series 40, especially Asha Series 40, and it also was emphasized with a very good battery life. There's a decent speaker as well, and also a pretty decent camera. But the build quality on this thing, as you will see in a bit when we start talking about build quality, was where they cut most of the costs on. Regardless of that, it had access to the Series 40 store, of course, and all the other games and applications that came with it. It was, of course, Java compatible as well, and its main focus was multimedia playback at a really low price. So this phone was definitely targeted at the budget market, and they definitely did it well, because this thing sold really well. I cannot find proper numbers as to the sales of this phone, but if I do ever find the numbers, I'll put them up here, but it's highly unlikely. I don't think the numbers were reported on this phone. But apart from that, it has a pretty basic history. It didn't break the news or anything like that. It wasn't on the top of any lists or anything of the sorts. However, we still have to cover phones like these, as these were the workhorses of the budget market. These are what sold like hotcakes, so they are as equally as important as other phones as well. So that was just a bit of history on the Asha 300, and now let's go ahead and talk about the design and build quality. Now, as mentioned earlier, this thing was actually brought to that 70 euro price tag by cutting heavily on the design and build quality, most notably, of course, the build quality. Now, if you see up here, we have the earpiece and we have the Nokia logo as well, and we have the display, which we'll talk about in a bit. We have a accept call button here, and we also have a quick email button, and then the power button / decline call button as well. It has a separate lock button on the side there, just to note. This does not act as the lock button. We have the keypad over here with the triple click to select, and weirdly, this is actually one of the few phones that I've seen has its microphone on the button over there. So you can see that's the microphone hole on the 7 button, which is quite interesting. Now we can move to the bottom of the device. As you can see, there's nothing at the bottom of the device. On this side, we have a place to put your finger and pull off the back cover, of course. And then we also have a lanyard strap hole there as well. Moving on to the top of the device, we have a micro USB port there, a 3.5mm headphone jack as well. We also have our slimmer barrel charger port. Of course, it can charge from both the micro USB and the slimmer barrel charger as well. One of the last phones actually to have the slim barrel charger port, and eventually it was completely phased out in favor of micro USB. On this side, we have the volume rockers and the lock button there that I mentioned already. And at the back of the phone, we have our 5 megapixel camera, which does not have a flash, as you can see. We have our Nokia branding over there. We have a single mono speaker, and as you can see, it says Nokia 300 over there. Now, in terms of build quality, I'm not gonna lie, it does feel extremely cheap. It's fully plastic. Everything on this phone is just really flimsy, bendy plastic. This thing feels cheap in every sense of the word. But that's fine, you were only paying 70 euros. That's okay, because everyone expected it to not be built really well. It still can take an impact or two. It's because it's so flexible and stuff, it can definitely bend instead of cracking or anything like that. So it is still somewhat in the Nokia line of things in terms of strength. However, in terms of feel and stuff, it's not that good. But that's what you pay with the $70 price tag, and you get a lot more in the software experience, as we'll mention earlier. They put the important stuff into the OS and everything else that's software wise, and they cut down from the physical aspects, and you put this thing in a case anyway, so why not? So yeah, that was just the design and build quality of this phone. We can now move on to the display on this thing, and it is of course, touchscreen phone with a resistive touchscreen. The touchscreen is actually really responsive, just like other Nokia resistive touchscreens, so it has absolutely no flaws with it. It responds well, you don't have to put too much pressure. Of course, it's not as good as like an N97 touchscreen or anything like that, but regardless, it is definitely a usable, responsive touchscreen. The display itself is a TFT LCD with 256,000 colors, so no 16 million colors, but 256,000 colors is a good sweet spot. The colors are relatively accurate for what they are, but the display is very bright. I was very impressed with this thing's outdoor performance as well. I didn't even have to put the brightness to maximum. The display is 2.4 inches like that diagonally, 240 by 320 pixels with a 4:3 aspect ratio and a 167 pixels per inch pixel density. Overall, a pretty decent display to use for what you pay. They actually did put quite a bit of the money towards the display as well. Like I said, they cut down heavily on build quality and they focus mainly on the software and stuff like that. But display also seems to have got some of that money because it is a very nice display to look. Remember, you're paying a $70 price. This is not a expensive phone. And overall, for what it is, being really bright, the colors being accurate, and well, accurate to a certain extent as 256,000 colors go, relatively a very nice display to look at for what you pay. I was perfectly happy with using this display, but then again, I'm not a very picky person, but I've never seen any reviews on this phone where people were complaining about the display, so I guess even in its heyday, this display was just fine to use. Now moving on to the tech specs of this device, the processor on this thing is of course a single core processor clocked in at 1 GHz. It's most likely Texas Instruments based on the previous Nokia phones on this range, on this price range. Texas Instruments did manufacture a lot of Nokia processors, a simple 1 GHz single core processor that gets the job done for this phone just fine. Now in terms of memory, there's a bit of conflicting information online as to how much memory this phone has. Now, if you look at my one here, you add up all this, it kind of adds up to 174 megs of internal memory. I'm pretty sure it's 256 gigs, but the operating system of course takes somewhat of it, and if you add all of this up, it's about 174 megs of internal storage available to the user. Some websites say it's just 128 megs, but as you can see, even now after some of it has been used, free memory is 158 megs instead of 128. Regardless, it also can have up to 32 gigs of SD expansion, and apart from that, everything else is just the same. It is a pretty basic feature phone. There's nothing too much in terms of tech specs and stuff. I mean, it did have photo call and a bit of call records and stuff like that. There's no proper numbers on exactly how much you could store, but it's probably in the thousands, of course. This was a feature phone, not a dumb phone. And apart from that, that's all I can really tell you about the tech specs on this phone. It was Series 40, so it didn't really need too much power to run stuff. It could have actually been happy with about an 800 megahertz processor, honestly, but that extra power was of course given to it to run applications from the Series 40 store and just to future-proof it a bit. But regardless, those were the internal tech specs of this device. Not too surprising, but then again, this phone was a budget phone, so you can't really expect too much out of it. We are now here in the operating system, and like I mentioned, this is Asha Series 40. I'll do the star hash thing usually right now, but these two buttons don't seem to be working, especially these two. The 0 button does work, which is kind of strange, but these two don't work. But you've seen this OS already. I've covered it multiple times on my channel. Regardless, this is the home screen, and you have a few customizable widgets there. You have Go To as well, which drops down more stuff, Bluetooth, camera, and stuff like that. You can't pull it down like that, but you can only press Go To from there, from the home screen. So you have your Bluetooth, camera, and all stuff over there. That's also nice. And like I said earlier, this is all customizable. You can change these. Menu, this is your general layout. You can switch it to grid view if you please. We have apps, and this is all the stuff under apps. There's a couple of games as well. I'll demo a game in a bit. There's a bunch of built-in themes as well, because like I said, these Asha phones were actually very focused on multimedia and customization and stuff. So you have some themes, you can download more themes. It has a good set of built-in wallpapers as well, which if I can find, let me show you. And here we are, and under graphics is where all the stuff is: wallpaper, clip art, frames, blah 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 blah. A lot of good stock wallpapers. I've put one of the purple ones because it's really nice, and everything else. Some of the themes also have their own wallpaper, so that changes the background, as you can see there. That goes with the theme. This is your general layout over here: calendar, contacts, music, internet messaging, photos, settings, to apps. Internet I can't demo because this thing does not have Wi-Fi, so I have to put a SIM in there. I don't have a full-size working SIM, so that's kind of a bummer, but it was a pretty decent browser. Some people did have a few complaints regarding the browser in some of the older reviews, but I guess after a few updates they fixed the browser. It had a few stuttering issues and stuff. It was a bit slow, etc, etc. But that's basically what you can expect from a phone at this price range. So now let us actually go ahead and demo a game, and I've already done this game in a shorts video, but I'll redo it again. So it is Angry Birds, and there's a few more other stuff: Climate Mission and Fast 5 the something. It's a demo game. Angry Birds is a full game. So let's load this up and see how it plays. Let's do max volume. Oh, that's a bit too loud. I used to be good at this game, but not anymore. So even with a resistive touchscreen, you can press and hold and release. I used to be considerably better at this game. Well, I haven't played it in a while, so. Come on, knock the last guy out. Okay, there we go. Pretty decent score. So it runs fine, just perfectly, as you can see. And we have a few more birds remaining, so +1 +1. 1,000, 10,000. Oh, that's a bad score. I thought that was a good score, but hey, I haven't played this in a while. But yeah, that is the Angry Birds gameplay demo on the Asha 300. So the camera on this thing is a 5 megapixel shooter, and it's a fixed focus camera, so no autofocus there, and it can shoot video at 480p at 15 FPS as well. So a pretty basic camera. Of course, it has no front camera either. So let us now jump into the camera interface here, and the camera quick button over there. And by the way, this is a lock button again, not a camera shutter button. You cannot take a photo with the lock button. So camera on standby, let's go continue. This is your interface. We have 136 images with the remaining space. I remember about 158 megs. We have a bunch of settings over there. We have camera, gallery, zoom, which you can also zoom with your volume rockers. We have a bunch of settings over there. View photos, video camera. You can switch to video camera. We have settings over here as well. You can reduce the quality, etc, etc, the date changer and all that stuff. Select memory. Pretty basic settings. We have some white balance and stuff as well. You can also go into landscape mode with this, and we have some simple effects there as well. Pretty basic camera settings, and the camera on this thing is okay. It's not amazing, but given proper lighting conditions, as you'll see, there are some photos that are actually quite impressive for what it is. So let us now roll the camera samples followed by the video samples from the Nokia Asha 300. So as you saw with those photos, some of them are actually quite usable given the proper lighting conditions, especially the more outdoor ones. And the video sample is, okay. It was what it is for the price range. So now it is time to demo the rear firing single mono speaker, and this speaker is quite loud for what it is, even though it's just on a budget phone. It's actually quite loud. It's not extremely clear or anything like that. It's a bit tinny, but it is what it is. And I'll of course do a full ringtones, nostalgic ringtones playlist video on this phone, so definitely stay tuned for that video by hitting the subscribe button, and also check out all the other videos I've done on the nostalgic ringtones playlist in the playlist, which I'll link down in the description below and in this card above as well, and it's on my channel. Let's start off with the Nokia tune here at max volume. Let's do that. So as you can hear, it's quite loud. Let us go into some other ringtones here, and there's a lot. As you can see, 37 total. Bicycle. So as you can hear, the ringtones there's a lot of ringtones, and the speaker is extremely loud at max volume, and it's not extremely clear or anything like that. It's a budget speaker, but if you wanted to listen to music on full blast, that'll actually do quite well. On actually medium settings, when playing music out of this thing, it's actually quite clear, so you don't want to go all out on the speaker volume, but that is that. But I can't play music for obvious copyright reasons. So now let us talk about extra features. So in terms of extra features, it didn't have too much, but the basics were there. So I mentioned earlier it doesn't have Wi-Fi, so I couldn't demo the browser, so that's kind of a bummer. It does have Bluetooth, which is 2.1, Bluetooth 2.1 with A2DP and EDR as well. It doesn't have GPS, of course. That was an expensive feature. It also has stereo FM radio with RDS, so that's also good, and micro USB 2.0 with USB on the go. And I think that's actually a good trade-off. GPS not being here, but USB on the go, that's actually a good trade-off. So no GPS, no Wi-Fi, but it has Bluetooth, stereo FM radio, and USB with USB on the go. That's actually a very good feature, to be honest. It also has a proximity sensor, because a lot of these feature phones had proximity sensors, but this thing has a touchscreen, so that's something you'd want. And the touchscreen is also quite sensitive, like I showed you earlier. So if you press this against your face, there's a high chance you'll press something. So yeah, it has a proximity sensor to turn off the display. It has MMS, email, blah 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 blah. Of course, there's a button over here for quick email access, and Java games as well with more downloadable content, Java 2 and MIDP 2.1 as well. And then there's basic document editors and stuff that you could download, and a lot of other stuff you could download to expand upon the usability from the Series 40 store. But apart from that, it doesn't really have all that going for it. It was a multimedia focused phone for music output, and of course the speaker, as you heard earlier, it's quite a good speaker for what it is. And when you go into the battery life is where you really start to know where this thing's strong points were, because the battery life on this phone is really good. So let's start talking about that. Alright, so as you can see, we have the back cover off here and the battery here as well. Let's take a look at the inside of the battery bay. It says made in India over there, as you can see. Type RM781 model 300, and the IMEI number and stuff I've covered up there. So that is the battery bay, pretty simple. So the battery on this thing is the good old BL4U, just a very common Nokia battery, nothing new to see here. And with this battery, this thing has some amazing battery performance. Another major selling point of this phone was its battery performance. Now this is a 1000 milliamp hour battery, and with this battery, it had a standby time, according to a few websites, I took an average of about 600 hours on 2G and about 550 hours on 3G, which is impressive. And talk time on this thing was about 7-ish hours on 2G and about 4.5 hours on 3G, and it has a music playback time of about 30 hours straight. So impressive battery life. Honestly, one of the most impressive battery lives I've seen on a budget phone before. So let me go ahead and put the battery in. and close it up. The back cover goes in a bit strange. It has these two small clips like things here. They can break off pretty easily. Like I said, the build quality on this thing is not that good, so gotta be careful. Mine hasn't broken off already, so that's good. And we can power it on. So yeah, I guess that's all there is to cover on the Asha 300 here regarding all its specs and stuff. Let's get it started there. Okay, yeah. So on all its specs and stuff, that's all I can really talk about. It is what it is. It's a very impressive phone for the price range. It's got this touch and type configuration and all that stuff as well. A very common phone that sold really, really well. And like I mentioned earlier, phones like these have to be covered as well. It's not always going to be the prototypes, the rares, the impressive stuff. We also got to include the ones that were not that impressive but were really good sellers and were the backbone of whatever price category they were in. And this one was definitely a very good seller at that price range, and a phone that a lot of people, according to what the comments I've seen on my previous videos regarding this phone, was very, very popular. So yeah, this was the retro style review of the Nokia Asha 300 from 2011. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you honestly did, don't forget to leave a big thumbs up on the like button down below, and also don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and ring that bell notification button so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Also, if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. We can start a discussion or I can answer your questions. My social media is linked down in the description below, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. Thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next video.